This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to this special edition of the Glazov Gang. Tonight, what an honor it is to have with us Jaeson Jones, a border security expert. Jaeson Jones, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be with you tonight.
An honor and a privilege to have you here, Jaeson. This evening, we want to focus on your expertise, international criminal organizations, the cartels, gangs, international terrorist groups. So this is all really scary stuff. We almost never see anything on CNN, MSNBC, and the leftist media about this. So why don't we just start in general? Tell us about your expertise and the threat that we face.
Sure. I recently retired from the Texas Department of Public Safety, where I was with the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Division as a captain. Prior to retirement, I was asked to run and manage the Border Security Operations Center for the Texas Rangers. I was very honored by that. And prior to that, I spent many years of my career down along the border, from as a trooper in El Paso, Texas, an undercover narcotics agent in Brownsville, and a lieutenant in Laredo, Texas. So I spent many years on that border actually fighting the cartels and creating initiatives to go after them.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for your service to this country, Jaeson. So let me ask you this. Let's begin with this. Is there a collusion between these cartel groups and perhaps Islamic terrorist groups, etc.? Do they collude with each other?
Sure. Well, first of all, cartels have to work together, because in Mexico and throughout the world now, because they're not just in Mexico. Sinaloa, for example, is in 54 nations around the world. If you look at Cartel Jalisco New Generation, they're in 42 nations around the world, and also a very young cartel. They work together to bring, because everything is about money to them and power and controlling territory. So if you're a terrorist or a part of a terrorist organization and you want to move through Mexico, you're going to have to work in some way, shape, or form with the cartels, because you have to pay what's known as the tax, or what they call the piso, to get to the United States. So absolutely. And, I can talk about it openly. There has been numerous cases of people and individuals coming from special interest alien countries with a terrorism nexus who have crossed our southwest border. That's indisputable at this point. But what happens is that within the community, there's a lot of people that don't understand the different layers within the cartel. So what I mean by that is you got to remember, it's not a structured organization as we know it in the United States, and as we're used to. These are dark networks. So if the boss says you will not move terrorists into the United States, for example, they'll look at them and say, no problem, boss. But at the lower levels, those who what we call the halcones, or the falcons, the lookouts for the cartels, who will operate as far as 10 miles into the United States on encrypted handheld radios, these individuals don't make a lot of money from the cartels. They're much lower level. So what they're willing to do is anything to keep their control, and they're willing to move any product across that border. And remember, everything that moves north and south of our border, from California to Brownsville, Texas, is a commodity. It crosses and it goes into Mexico, some way, shape, or form. The cartels are going to make the piso, or the tax, on that. And that's where we get very concerned.
So, Jaeson, when you talk about concern, let's crystallize this for a minute for our viewers, and maybe people that don't understand or don't know about the level of threat. If I was to say to you, I don't think we need to be worried too much about this. I don't think it really hurts or damages our country too much. What would your answer be?
Yeah, and that's actually why I'm coming out and talking now that I've retired, because that's absolutely not true. Right. Never mind just the drug and the heroin and the methamphetamine epidemic that we've now seen, which has completely been taken over by the Mexican cartels. But also look at the violence that has happened in Mexico. You're talking since 2007, over 132,000 people killed in that country, and very brutally killed in ways that I can't articulate here on your show, or you'll have to censor me. Look at the vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices that we've seen them leveraging. That shows true tradecraft that they've learned after 10 years of battling the Mexican military. Now, think of that. It's hard to believe, but for 10 years, the Mexican military has leveraged all of their assets to go after these cartels that have not yet been able to stop them. You go through, if you're going to be a cartel member, a minimum of 13 to 18 week training academy where you learn how to leverage everything from encrypted handheld radios. You learn how to utilize surface-to-air missiles, light anti-tank weapons, RPGs, 40-millimeter mic grenades, all of these military-grade weapons that have been moving north, and we've been seeing these battles in Mexico for many, many years. And the disturbing thing now and how that all links up to us here in the United States is this. We are seeing that level of tradecraft come into the United States and commit murders. Look at the murder example in South Lake, Texas, where approved by a cartel boss, an individual was killed in the mall by a group who showed unbelievable tradecraft, following his family members from Florida to Texas, where they finally located him and killed him in that very upscale, beautiful area. So that's just one example of many that I could give you here. Never mind all of the other types of violence from human trafficking and human smuggling we're seeing across this country that a lot of people forget started from the cartels and has now been pushed down to our street level gangs and our tier 1 gangs throughout the country.
Okay, Jaeson, the 8 years of the Obama administration, what kind of report card would you give that administration for how it dealt with this problem?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd give them an F. I remember when the former president came down and said, "What do you want us to do here in El Paso, Texas? Build a moat?" And when he said that, myself, along with many other great men and women, were down on that border supporting one of the largest collaborative border operations in Texas history. And to give you an example, at that time, we had been funded because of the influx of unaccompanied alien children and family units, $880 million joint border operation involving over 150 highway patrolmen, Texas Rangers, aircraft, and criminal investigations and intel officers going down there for 24/7 operations ever since June of 2014. Jamie, that's not stopped yet. Those men and women, every day as we're sitting here talking, are still down there collaborating and working and having to do that as a state to pick up where the federal government did not. Now, I will tell you, fast forwarding where we are today, things are evolving and changing very rapidly. Look at the numbers of people no longer crossing into the United States since the Trump administration from December of 2016 into January of 2017, we saw over a 12,000 count number of people that no longer crossed that border. And every month since then has been going down.
All right, so this is a great development. Thank God for Donald Trump. And we see definitely an instinct and a mindset that loves this country and wants to protect this country as opposed to the Obama administration. We would be in agreement on that?
Definitely. We're seeing a lot of changes. And I got to tell you one great thing that a lot of people probably haven't thought about, and that is General Kelly, now Secretary Kelly, for many years was in South America looking north, watching as special interest aliens and those people who come from a country with a terrorism nexus, which is what that is, or OTMs, what is known as other than Mexicans, passed by him and went north to his homeland. So I think the decision to put him in the position that he has been in has been the right decision, and you're already seeing the results of that with the numbers dropping the way they have.
Okay, now Jaeson, just yes or no first, and then we'll continue. The wall that Trump talks about, good idea?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, but I've read a lot of what you say, everything that you contribute to the discourse on border security. You're saying, okay, the wall's important, but we got to do a lot more. Tell us more about what we need to do to protect the border.
First and foremost, we need to be funding the United States Customs and Border Protection. When 97% of U.S. Border Patrol's budget goes to salary, that's not an effective strategy and plan. And I know that they're trying to change that now in Washington. But in addition to that, and something that we need to be aware of and really talk about the cartels, we have allowed them to become powerful. They are no longer really transnational criminal organizations. They're what we are now calling global violent networks. One, because they're not just operating throughout the United States, they're operating globally, as I've described earlier. And we've got to define them differently. And the reason is because in South Texas, I've got 12 and 13-year-old kids who are part of gangs moving thousands of pounds of dope a week. Let me say that again, a week across that southwest border. You can't compare a gang in Texas that's moving narcotics across that border to what I've described the capabilities of these cartels. And the reason definitions in Washington are important, and the folks need to understand this, is because with definitions come authorities and capabilities that allow the Department of Defense and others to take initiative and action. And what you're hearing me say a lot is no longer a Department of Justice mission where we're going to try to arrest our way out of this problem after 2-year-long investigations. We need a lot more initiative and input into working and collaborating with the Mexican government from the intelligence community and especially the Department of Defense.
You know, Jaeson, what a tragedy that you put it on MSNBC, CNN. They're spending most of their time ridiculing something about Trump and how he maybe pushed himself ahead of some leader in Europe, you know, recently, and and they're giggling about something that Trump said somewhere. Why don't they have people like you and interviewing you? Have you been on CNN or MSNBC recently?
No, I have not. And I will tell you, I have been trying since retiring last year to get on national media to really have a true, honest discussion about what works at the southwest border and what doesn't, you know, from someone who's actually been there. But like you said, unfortunately, I guess there's some different initiatives, and I don't understand the industry, but I do care about our country and the people and trying to make a difference out there to save lives.
Well, thank you. But one thing I'm sure we do understand is when it comes to the left, we know very well why they pick what they pick and don't pick what they don't pick. Jaeson, before we go, these transnational criminal organizations, they're collaborating, as you've researched and talked about, with terrorists in Africa. You know, there could be connections to weapons of mass destruction. This is terrifying stuff. Give us a little bit of glimpse into this terrifying scenario.
Yeah, the worst case scenario here really is that, you know, those who want to harm us, who are seeing on the news every day that we have unsecured borders, you know, understand and have built the relationships with the cartels to be able to transit that border. And all they're going to do is pay a little more money to be able to breach those borders and get into our country. And it's time we stop it.
But they can bring in weapons of mass destruction, and there's many people who want to do that.
I think they're going to have some real challenges to get those kind of weapons across, especially north. But that's not to say that anything's not possible, no.
Right. Jaeson Jones, thank you so much for your service to this country and everything that you're doing for the freedom and protection of this country. For those viewers that are watching and are inspired by you and want to get behind you and help you and perhaps even invite you, how do people reach you?
Thank you for that, Jamie. Yes, you can reach me at jaesonjones.com, Jaeson, Jones.com.
Okay, fantastic. Jaeson, thank you for coming on the Glazov Gang and for everything that you're doing.
I appreciate that. It was great to be with you. Look forward to working with you in the future.
And to our viewers of the Glazov Gang, please remember we're a fan-generated program. If you like what we do and you support us, please go to jamieglazov.com to support the show and make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel of the Glazov Gang. Good night.